The more discriminatory you are in business, the fewer potential customers you have. You're just literally cutting out your potential customer base by saying, I don't want you to come through my doors.
Free Talk Live.
In Washington, Peter, go ahead with your thoughts tonight.
Sure. I just wanted to talk about basically political correctness or cultural Marxism, whatever you want to call it, in universities.
Sure.
I got an email today from my school's president, and it had to do with claims about racism, discrimination, white supremacy, and sure, I can sympathize, the discipline action in regards to racism, but once you hear someone say white supremacy or discrimination, then that really just makes me question the motive. And essentially what happened at my university
Which university, do you mind saying?
Yeah, it's called the Catholic University of America, and
okay.
The Catholic school in Washington, D.C.
Gotcha.
And so essentially what happened was someone during, I guess, Martin Luther King weekend drew a Nazi symbol on a flyer or a poster or something like that. And supposedly that that means that there's a white supremacy crisis going around in my school. And I took the luxury of replying to my president. I'm not sure if she's going to read my email, because who am I? But I took the time to kind of educate her on why discrimination should be okay. And I gave her an example of, hey, the fact that I got up from my bed this morning and went to my classes today means that I discriminated against my bed in favor of my class. And I gave her also an example in the market, and it's pretty basic stuff. So if you have like a pizza shop owner who's a racist, he's a bigot, he doesn't want to serve black, but the guy down the block who's not a bigot and not a racist, he's open to anyone because he's in the business to make money. Well, he's going to put that guy who's racist out of business.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You're cutting down, if you are discriminating against somebody because of their color of their skin, where they were born, their gender, their sexual preference, or whatever, the more discriminatory you are in business, the fewer potential customers you have. You're just literally cutting out your potential customer base by saying, I don't want you to come through my doors. Now, you're right. You ought to be free to make that choice. And in fact, I want to know. I want to know who the racist business owners are. I don't want them to hide it. I want them to be out on Front Street with a sign right on the front door, saying who is and who isn't allowed, because I want to be able to discriminate against that business. I think you're right on here, Peter.
Sure, and just if I can add just one more thing,
sure.
In regards to Nazism, a lot of people think that the Nazis were white supremacists, and for the most part, that could be accurate. They did blame a lot of the failures that they had on the Jews, but in reality, it was the economic calculation problem that von Mises talks about when he talks about socialism, and people don't, for some reason, they don't recall that the Nazis were actually a socialist party. I mean, that's something that the Nationalist Socialist Party in Germany.
Right, that's what Nazi stands for is National Socialist. Yeah.
Exactly, and so I actually, I took the time to kind of educate my president on why that Nazi symbol shouldn't really be, it shouldn't cause any issues. And
yeah, I mean, to act like before you go on, where was the symbol placed?
I think it's like right in front of a picture of Martin Luther King.
So was it like on a wall or something like that? Like where?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was graffiti. So somebody did commit the act of defacing a surface at the school. It wasn't like some sort of thing that was chalk or whatever.
Yeah,
is that right? Okay.
And the thing, yeah.
Well, so what I want to say about that is that these people in the administration are definitely blowing this way out of proportion. This is probably just some drunk college student, because that's how they are. Drunk college student on a dare or just wanted to do something stupid as teenage, young males are wont to do, who just made a Nazi symbol or a swastika or whatever it was. Probably that person may not even be an actual Nazi. It may just be a jerk. It may just be some punk-ass kid. And one instance like this is not a crisis.
It may not even be that. It may just be people fed up with all of the nonsense from the left.
So they're swinging the pendulum all the way back to the other direction?
Yeah.
Could be. But look, either way, it's not a crisis.
Yeah.
One offensive symbol is not something that anybody should freak out about. It doesn't need to be on the front page of the school newspaper, because by giving it all that attention, you are essentially acknowledging this person and saying you are important. You, this anonymous Nazi, whoever it was that made this spray painting, you're so important. The president is going to write a letter about you. You are so important that we're going to make a big deal out of this, a big stink. We're going to have, re-education camps. We're going to have all kinds of, mandatory seminars or whatever else they're going to do. So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, and again, like, this is all kind of ironic to me because, I've tried to start a Young Americans for Liberty organization in my school. Mm-hmm. Just try to promote Austrian economics and non-interventionism, all that good stuff that we have in our philosophy. But I always get negated by SGA or the admins because for some reason I'm promoting white supremacy.
What?
And just because I'm yeah, exactly. Just because I'm pro state rights, they think I'm I'm some type of Calhounist, some type of racist.
Hold on. So if you want to start a club, see, I never went to anything more than community college, and I'm glad for it. But if you want to start a club on a campus, isn't that like inherently your right as long as you can find like a sponsor or something? How can they tell you no?
It should be. Yeah. Well, I did find a sponsor, a rare conservative professor, but I have to get the okay from SGA because they control the funding, which is ironic because I pay a lot of money to go to that school.
Yeah.
Yet they tell me I can't run a simple club.
That sounds to me like what I would do if I were you is, I don't know if FIRE does this kind of stuff. I know they handle free speech issues on college campuses.
It's a private university, though, isn't it?
I bet you they take state money. I mean, yeah, it's private, but do you think they take state-funded scholarships? I bet you they do.
Yeah.
Peter, let us know how this goes, man. I appreciate hearing from you. Either way, reach out to FIRE and see where they would direct you to. We're coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Thanks for the call. Any other comments? Because, you kind of were listening to our last caller, Chris, who was calling. He went to a college that was apparently a private Catholic school. There was apparently a Nazi symbol, a swastika or something like that was spray painted somewhere in the school, and the president sends out an email about it. They're making a big deal about this thing. And look, I'm not pro-Nazi. I am anti-racist. That's like the one thing that we don't welcome on our Discord server, by the way. If you're a racist on the Discord server, you will be put into the toxic user zone immediately. But, you went to college. Does this ring a bell for you? Did stuff like this happen when you were in college?
There was certainly stuff that I wasn't too... I can only really remember, like, one protest at the university. And I would have to say, I think it was in relation to something of this nature. Mm-hmm. But I also have to say there was a lot of things I didn't like that the university was doing. So... Yeah, and it was a state university. So yeah, I think a state university is going to have more restrictions on it than a private university. I don't know though with certainty. People say and they phrase it as, private schools getting federal money or state money, and I don't entirely know. While that might be true, I think the way it may actually work is that the money is earmarked for the student, and therefore it's not the school who is receiving it directly. Therefore, they may not have those strings attached unless they take money directly.
Yeah, I think they take the money directly because they're not going to give the student money, right? Like, you don't want to give somebody $7,000 or whatever a semester costs these days. $10,000. They're going to go and spend that on alcohol.
If it's a state school, for sure, you're going to end up in a situation where the state school is obviously going to have to comply. But a private university, I'm not 100% sure on that one. I don't know.
There's no way. There's no way they're going to cut a check to the individual receiving whatever state funding for the schools.
So
that's not going to happen. It's not even fiscally responsible.
Right.
I mean, I understand states aren't fiscally responsible, but that's insane.
Let's back up a moment. My company has taken money from the federal government on a number of occasions.
You sell parts for computers computers.
Right. And there's certain parts you just can only get from us.
Yeah.
It isn't the case that every single time we sell to the government that we have to sign a contract that says all this fine print that says, we can't, we have to have equal employment and all this other stuff.
Sometimes they're just buying stuff from you.
Sometimes they're just buying some from us. If we put in a bid for a contract,
then
that's when all those terms come in.
Right.
So it may be something similar with these private institutions. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be a question for somebody that is an administrator at one of these institutions.
Yeah.
They would probably know the answer to that question. If you want to join us here, the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. But to respond to a Nazi symbol or any offensive symbol that is, put somewhere, to respond to it in any way besides this is graffiti. Okay, shouldn't matter what the graffiti is. It's graffiti. It's a crime. You've defaced somebody's property, and that's not okay. No matter whatever it is that has been put there, to give it more power than it has. It's just somebody scrawling something drunkenly on the side of a building to act like it's anything more, that there's some sort of crypto Nazis in the school that are, secretly planning to do Nazi things. I mean, it's just ridiculous. This is just the way college boys are likely to behave, because it's the way they behaved when they were in high school. They're still basically in high school. They always said about college that it's high school with cigarettes. It's kind of what it was, at least the college I went to. That's what they referred to it as, high school with cigarettes, because that was the only thing that changed. Because now you could smoke. Yeah,
I remember. I remember not. I wouldn't say this for the university I went to, but I did a few. I did take a few courses at the local community college, and it was the second high school is how they or the continuation of high school is how it was phrased.
Same thing. It
was kind of a joke, but
I've never been to a college as far as as a student besides community college. So I mean, I can't say from personal experience, but having been around enough of these college students, I mean, we live in a college town, you and I.
Yeah,
it's Keene, New Hampshire. That's where we live. There's a relatively small it's not even a university. I guess it's college. It's just a state college.
I think there's a difference between the kids who go to the 4-year schools and the kids who go to the 2-year schools. It's not to say there's not some overlap, obviously.
What's the difference? Are they brattier at the 4-year schools?
Because I don't know. I don't even feel like it's so much that. It seems to be. It doesn't. I'm not saying that one is necessarily. I don't know if I
think they're going to act out more. I think college students at a 4-year college are going to act out more, and here's why.
Yeah,
because they're leaving their parents' home in a lot of cases, right, for the very first time. So they've been, many of them, in very restrictive environments. They've been told what they can and can't do. Now, all of a sudden, they go from that restrictive environment to a less restrictive environment where now they're living on their own. Now they've got a roommate that's their own age. They may have some college person who's in charge of the whole dorm, but they're not watching everything that they do. So they have way more freedom. They can buy the food that they want to buy. They can kind of go out and party as often as they want to go out and party. They can do things. They're not, in many of them, especially if they're getting a scholarship or if their parents are paying their way, they don't have to work. So they don't have any responsibilities tying them down. So they can basically just F around and have no responsibility whatsoever. Whereas a college student or a community college student, you don't get to live on campus. There are no community colleges I've ever heard of that have on-campus housing. That just doesn't exist. So these people are either still living with their parents or they've moved into their own place, which means they're paying their own bills, which means they probably are working, so they're probably more likely to be more responsible and more mature.
So what I saw, what came off, this was my impression, having gone to or attended at both 2 and 4-year schools, but I mostly attended 4-year schools, mind you. But for most of my education, I only took a handful of classes at community college, and most of that was during high school. But anyway, what I saw was more along the lines of the kids who really weren't. There was I don't want to say they were. This was the case across the board, but I think there was a disproportionate number of students going to the 2-year school who were not. They were not, they were not in a position, I guess.
What kind of position?
Academically, Not everybody. There's also a percentage that were, elderly people taking classes, things of that nature too.
I don't understand you're saying though. A position academically, what does that mean?
They did not have the same standards, I guess, or expectations maybe, that I saw more of in the four-year school. And it's not to say that there weren't kids who were very similar in their behaviors going to the four-year school, but a lot of those kids ended up dropping out. So
like the bratty ones, the irresponsible ones drop out?
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about kids maybe irresponsible in that they didn't go to classes, things of that nature.
That tends to be what happens if you are irresponsible and you party all night. You're probably going to miss a bunch of classes and end up failing grades and things like that.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it seemed like the majority who continued on, were more prepared for college than the kids in the 2 years.
Maybe it was the people you ran with, too.
It could be.
There's more coming up here in moments. 855, 450,
very,
free
very
like
likely.
freedom. I don't imagine you joined the partiers. More coming up.
No, I did.
Free Talk Live. Listen live 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern or grab the podcast. It's all at freetalklive.com.